Welcome, that's a little weird. This is the update slash tutorial video for the newest Slash Mode update, the new heroes slash other non-speedster heroes update. Okay, so getting right into it, first I want to just display some changes to old things. One of them, actually the only thing I think, being the flash powers and how they work. I got a few to make complaints that the first two boss fights are too hard because you can only use flash powers when you are when you're holding the ring, and that makes it pretty hard to fight because you don't have face punch yet. So now you don't lose speedster charge when you don't have your speedster powers activated, and to activate your speedster powers you have to hold any flash speedster item like any ring or phase, tornado, phase punch, lightning bolt, etc. Shift and punch, and that activates your speedster powers. This activates time stop, and this also begins the drainage of your speedster charge, and of course you can charge it by running, and this is basically just a blank item when you don't have the speedster powers turned on. Now let's get into the update. Okay, first off, I would just like to say all the new heroes slash villains I've added, that being Killer Frost, Vibe, Elongated Man, Green Arrow, and Weather Wizard. And all of their armors are craftable and have to be put on the suit stand, which works just like a completely normal armor stand. I won't spend too much time on the crafting recipes because they're already available on the mod page, but I suspect that is why you're watching this video. So anyway, then you have the white glove, which is how White's powers work. It is just an item. There is no other process to getting his powers. It requires 5 iron, 1 diamond, 1 diamond block, 2 redstone. Similarly, all the armor, for example Elongated Man, tries to follow their primary and secondary color schemes that you can see in the texture itself, and since green arrow just uses green. Next we have the weather wand, which is a pretty powerful item. So it requires 5 iron, 1 lightning rod, 1 wind charge, 1 fireball, 1 fire charge, and 1 heart of the sea. It's pretty expensive, but it is quite worth it, I assure you. After that, we don't have so much more in terms of crafting recipes, in terms of unique items. Instead, we go over to this, the fletching station, which you can craft with 1 fletching table, 3 iron ingots, and 4 iron bars, which you can use to make the several green arrows. And to shoot those, I have missed this as the compound bow, which requires 3 iron ingots, 1 string, and 2 white silica fabric. Moving over here, first up we have the boxing arrow, which requires 1 arrow, 1 slime block, and 1 red silica fabric to craft 6 boxing arrows. Then you have the ender arrow, which requires 1 arrow, 1 ender pearl. You have the ice arrow, which requires 2 ice regular and 1 arrow. Then you have the lightning arrow, which requires a lightning rod and a copper ingot to make the arrow. And then you have gunpowder and sand plus an arrow to make the TNT arrow. Then you have an arrow with a lead and 1 iron ingot to make the grappling hook arrow. Then to make the tranquilizer arrow, you have an arrow and a tranquilizer potion, which I'll get to in just a second. Then you have, for the sharp arrow, you have an iron nugget and an iron sword. Then you have the smoke bomb arrow, for which you need 1 flint, 1 gunpowder, and 1 arrow. Now, moving on to the brewing stand. First up, we have this blue ice with syringes to craft ice syringes, which will be used for the ice gene enhancer, which will be used for Killer Frost. Then we have a gingo fruit with regular water bottles to make king gold, which will be used to get Elongated Man's powers. And finally we have the tranquilizer potion, for which you need a tranquilizer with 3 potions of poison. That gives us a tranquilizer potion. This is a tranquilizer which says do not consume, consumption shall cause death. And to craft this, you need a fermented spider eye, 1 brown mushroom, and 1 ink sac. And to get the tranquilizer, which you have to put on a potion of poison to get the tranquilizer potion. Now let's move on to the different heroes. Okay, starting off with Vibe. So when you hold the glove, you said shows Vibe glove shoot. This fires the projectile, which you have to fire from at least 5 blocks from any entity or a block, and it just does like a decent amount of knockback to whatever it hits. Then you have the boost mode, which shoots you in the direction which you're looking and gives you a very short duration of feather falling. So you have to be very careful when using it, otherwise you're gonna take fall damage. Like for example, like this. Next you have, as you can see, it says nether summon. You use this to go to the nether. Simply interacting with it opens up a portal. And you have to be above Y level 5 to be able to use the nether portals, otherwise you'll get sent into the void. Okay, so if the portal drops you somewhere where the airspace is already taken, it creates a small pocket for you to be able to stand in. And this is the nether equivalent to your coordinates in the world. So when you go back, it will put you in a similar position, not the exact same position. Okay, as you can see, we made the portal about here and we got dropped back about here. And the final ability is the end summon, which works exactly like okay, my bad, the audio cut out there, but basically it works exactly like the end summon, except if you're below Y level 15, it does not take you anywhere, and it makes a little platform if there is nothing underneath. Now moving on to okay, so to shuffle between your different arrows, you just have to shift and interact, and this order is not set in stone. So basically, if you toss out all your arrows and have only the boxing arrow left, it will skip directly back to the boxing arrow. And what the boxing arrow does is just a decent amount of knockback. Next, we have the ender arrow, which I'm sure you can guess what that does. It teleports you. Then you have the grapple arrow, which you simply shoot towards anything and it pulls you towards that. However, if you shoot it too high, like for example like that, it just breaks and gives you a lead. Then you have the ice arrow, which I'm sure you can guess what that does. It works similar to the cold bullet and just turns whatever touches into ice. Then you have the kryptonite arrow, which does nothing for now. Then you have the lightning arrow, which does that. You have the sharp arrow, which does that. You have the smoke bomb arrow, which is my personal favorite arrow, which does nothing if you shoot it too far, but releases smoke. But if you shoot it on top of yourself, it gives you invisibility even with the green arrow armor on. And the invisibility lasts about 5-6 seconds, 7 to 10 seconds, I think. I don't clearly remember, my bad. Then you have the TNT arrow, which again is pretty self-explanatory. You have the tranquilizer arrow, which to demonstrate what that does, I will simply give you 13 seconds of slowness, about 10 seconds of nausea, 5 seconds of blindness, 5 seconds of poison 3. Sorry, I meant 15 seconds of slowness, which lasts beyond all the other effects. And now, moving on to... Okay, so before I show off Elongated Man's powers, I first want to explain how to get them. And to do that, you need to go to a mangrove forest and break mangrove leaves without shears, which have a 1 in 100 chance of dropping the rare fruit ginkgo, which is used to make gingold, which is the recipe I showed earlier in the video. And basically, just break that until you get ginkgo, and you turn that into gingold by just putting this into a water bottle. Now you can drink gingold, which has a 50% chance of giving you the powers or a 50% chance of killing you. Well, okay, I got lucky enough to survive. There you go. Alright, okay, so now to use Elongated Man's powers, you hold the item, you shift and you interact. And now it works. Firstly, you interact with the item to get a grappling hook. Wait, hold on. You interact with the item to get something similar to the grappling hook. And this works exactly like the grappling hook. And that worked pretty well. And now his second power is that when you're holding the item and are sneaking in the air, this happens. Basically giving you snow falling and turning you into a parachute. Then the third power is extended reach. And if we go this far, usually we cannot touch the pig that is a pig that is this far. Oh, not come closer. We can if it stops moving. And it can kill the pig. And the range is about 9 blocks. And the normal player reaches about 5 blocks. And that is all for Elongated Man. Now, moving on to... Okay, so before I actually show off Killer Frost's powers, I would first like to show how to get Killer Frost's powers. You have to take the Ice Gene Enhancer and inject yourself with it, then you'll get a message saying you feel colder. Then you have to walk into powdered snow and take damage from the powdered snow and have a 3 in 100% chance every time you take damage to be able to get the powers of Killer Frost. See, and it eventually will get a message saying you feel warmer, which means that the Ice G enhancer has worn off. And okay, so eventually you will get the Killer Frost powers. Okay, so before we begin, I would just like to say that if you are using any of the other powers like Speedster powers or Elongated Man's powers, you cannot use any of the other power, the Killer Frost, to activate her powers or his powers. You simply interact and you get fire resistance, which is actually something I found out that Killer Frost has a passive ability. And now to use her powers, firstly you shift, you interact, and the first power is an ice spike line, which does that. The next power is a circle, which does that. And then this next power, which I think is one of the most overpowered in the whole mod, does not actually change the item you're holding and is simply a toggle, and does that. You can either walk on water or you can walk quite literally on air. Now this ice does melt quicker than normal Frostwalker ice. However, I still think it is pretty OP. However, if you are falling, you cannot activate it. Now, moving on to the final one, the simply titled Ice Powers gives you an Ice Mace, which does slowness damage and just a decent bit of damage, or does this. And that is all for Killer Frost. Now, moving on to... Okay, so I should begin this by saying that now you need to use Education Edition with the Flash mod, so that all of his abilities work. So whenever you're holding the weather wand, you automatically have the air mode selected, but if you shift and interact, you turn on the water mode. And each mode or element has its own passive for water with the water breathing, its own normal attack which happens just by interacting with the wand, and its own charge attack which happens by interacting with the wand for more than 20 ticks or 1 second. So the water element's normal attack is the ice bullet, which is becoming slightly cancerous now. The charge attack is an AoE water strike attack, which basically fires a pretty powerful projectile in all directions. The next element is fire, which passive is of course fire resistance, and the normal attack is a fireball. Then the charged attack is the potentially most powerful in the whole mod, which is a fire tornado, which pulls enemies in from a shorter range than the regular tornado, but does almost twice the damage of the regular tornado, which has, by the way, been made stronger now. Then you have the lightning attack, and it's probably best I show this. Alright, so currently I have changed this so that I am also affected by this. So the normal attack for lightning is a stun / flashbang attack, which when hitting one entity does this to all the surrounding entities. A flashbang. And now, I swear, I don't have anything against pigs, by the way. I just picked them because they have the shortest name. For its charge attack, you hold, and it strikes lightning and a small explosion to every entity in the vicinity. And now, moving on to the final, or technically the first element. Oh, by the way, the passive is also speed. Air. Now, air's passive, as you can see, does not have any effects. And the reason for that is because you can fly as the passive of the wind ability. And now for the normal attack, just picks them up and slams them down. And the charge attack is just the flash tornado, which works as the regular flash tornado does, because it is exactly that. And that is the entire update video for the Flash mod's newest update, the new Heroes update. Thank you so much for downloading, hopefully, and thank you very much for watching.